Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary AFL podcast, back for the 2023 AFL season. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce. Welcome back into the space.
The space, the studio. It's the old studio, but the new look studio. Some nice little artwork there. Some good vibes for 2023. And I've just finished celebrating the 2022 AFL season and ready to get into the new one.
I thought you were going to say you're celebrating the first quarter of the preseason game, Geelong versus Brisbane, where you're down 26 points.
Yeah. Preseason's not a good indicator for the season, so I will not be talking about the preseason.
You can tell how much we care about the preseason when the preseason's on right now. And we're just sitting at the dining table here recording a podcast.
I mean, that's the way it should be in terms of preparation. Make sure you get the preseason games in and then record a podcast during the actual games. But, you know, we do value the actual aspect of it. You get to be able to see who is playing well, you know, the new recruits. But it also doesn't give you a true indication because teams aren't playing their full arsenal. Teams are not showing their full game plans, and quite often players are being rested, ready for that round one, that big Thursday night game in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, you think about a team that plays another side twice, say Geelong play, Sydney twice. They're probably not going to show their full arsenal of a plan against Sydney early on in the season. And depending on what's on the line later on in the season, if they're in a comfortable position, they might not show everything there because they're thinking they're going to meet that team in the finals. So if an AFL normal season game can be like that, you just imagine preseason is you stay away from it in terms of betting. We are a betting podcast here, and you can watch for enjoyment, watch a couple of the young players. That's probably the main thing that I get out of it.
It is really good for your football fix. I watched the 7-quarter shellacking of Hawthorn last week with Geelong, and it was really interesting to watch the way that unfolded, see some of the young guns. But as you said, it doesn't really give you a lot in terms of the actual game dynamics, the matchups, the gameplay. We're playing Brisbane tonight. We played them in a prelim final last year. Not something you're going to show their cards against a potential premier contender. Yeah,
not something we like to do, but it's the thing we've spoken about the most in 2023 is the preseason so far.
It was the only thing, yes.
And before I was actually watching, 5 minutes of the Port Adelaide Fremantle game, and some of the worst camera work I've ever seen. It was either zoomed out really far.
As good as our camera work here. I wait for the dodgy ones to come in a moment.
Or when the ball went out of bounds, the cameraman would zoom in right up to the ball and you couldn't see anything else. So it was kind of out then in. It was really amateur. So I'm guessing they got the work experience kids in for preseason, which is good because they need some experience to man the cameras during the season.
It had to be better than the match simulation ones where they literally looked like they were on a drone and there was a kid secret spy stuff, New England Patriots sort of, Spygate hanging through, and it was this weird little chopper thing but the same thing, zooms in on the grass, zooms in on the footy at no stage.
The best camera work ever, I'm sure you agree. I'm pretty sure they were playing Melbourne at the MCG and it was Gold Coast versus Melbourne and it was Gaza Cam. And it was just zoomed in on him the whole time. And you couldn't even see where the ball was, but you could just see Gaza. It was
Gaza Cam. Gotta love it. I mean, they had something similar when Buddy Franklin went for his thousands in the lead up to it, but they went too early. He was sitting on 993 or something, and they're like, Buddy Cam. And it's like, we're just going to watch him run straight line every now and then, get his hands up in anger, not kick any goals. Poor investment, Fox.
You know what? Fox and whoever's got Footy Channel 7, let us choose our own camera angles. Press red, choose it, and let us choose our own commentary. It's 2023, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, if they're looking for innovative ways to engage listeners or followers to the sport, take a leaf out of the NBA book. Their league pass is elite. You can do it. The other day I watched. I didn't actually, but you've got mobile view. You've got the home team commentators, the away team commentators. You've got they've got an ESPN zoomed in one, and it's they've got really really zoomed in. So I think against for the mobile.
Yeah, I don't even like that on mobile.
No, either do I. I like to be able to see the whole thing. Yeah, and then the other one is just two ex-NBA players commentating the game in a studio, but the thing is you're zoomed in on the studio and it's this little thing for the actual game. I can't see anything.
The banter. You did use one other thing in the NBA the other day. Took the little one to something on a Thursday, and
so that's an expensive trip. Took it to the NBA. Wow.
No, I didn't take it to the NBA, but took it to a little play thing. And on the way, I can't be watching the NBA, but I put it on radio of one of the teams, listened through the car
Oh,
speakers.
amazing. So good.
And yeah, it was nearly better than the biased Cleveland or Boston supporters because they're just insane there.
But that's what you got to do, mate. Bring back push red for Ed instead of that premise of a biased commentator. I love listening to it. It'd be like sitting next to some of those nuffies in the cheer squad, and you hear them going, and it's like ball, and it's like, mate, he's not even been tackled yet.
It's strange because I know we harp on it every year. Maybe this is the only time we're allowed to harp on it. But all I want to do
in the preseason
is press red. You can choose Channel 7 commentary or Foxtel commentary. You can choose 3RW. You can choose 1116 SEN, anything else. And I know all those companies are using their money to employ people, but surely the AFL can blanket and cover the cost of something and just go, you know what? Here's the vision. You can have the vision. Choose what thing you want. Who cares?
I mean, I'm sure they're still getting the in terms of the money, in terms of the streaming. So, like, I know that Collingwood have their own Collingwood TV. I'm sure they'd be using that sort of stream. There's ways to do it. People are doing it on YouTube now. It's a huge hit. Step into the 21st century. But, you know, we won't harp on any longer about it. We need to get on to other things.
Oh, but we are talking about 21st century here, Sauce. And you may have watched The Test 2 on Amazon Prime.
I haven't actually, no.
You haven't watched
I've been
that,
watching the Shaq documentary on Binge.
Okay, there
Very
you
good.
go. Yeah, but it's very good vision, and they've got a Formula One one. They did have an AFL one which it covered like 5 different people, coaches, players, and things like that. I think teams and social media these days need to get on board and follow a little behind the scenes type thing. I know sometimes invasion of privacy with players and things like that, but there's got to be players that will agree to anything, and I think team social media in the AFL, those 18 clubs, they could become so much bigger and so much more popular if they just put a 1 episode a week out type thing, like Robbo does, Mitch Robinson for Brisbane, who's now probably not going to do that anymore for Brisbane.
Well, they had the one on Prime Video, the AFL one, and that was fantastic.
With the
Fantastic. It was
five
called
different
Making Their Mark. It was called, you know, season 1 or whatever it was for the 2020 when they had 33 games in 20 days or whatever. That was fantastic. Now bring you into the inner sanctum. You know, take the whole way through. You know, it'll give an eye-opening experience to a range of clubs. Do it. Maybe they need to do it with a VFL club first, so teams can realise that they're not giving away home secrets. That would be amazing, and AFL purists would love it.
Like the from that Making Your Mark, Damien Hardwick's halftime speech. Yeah, you don't have to say it before, but you release it after the season, whatever it might be. It'd be amazing content to go and watch and see your team represented as well.
Exactly right. And speaking of amazing content, you can tell that we haven't spoken footy for a little bit. We've been a little bit quiet on the off season because we've just rambled on about how we can innovate the AFL and improve it, and you know, Pez and Sauce for CEO and commissioners of the AFL. But speaking of ways that you can engage in the footy, is our loser comp, Pez, and it's back again for season 20 AFL 2023, and it's bigger than ever.
Oh, it has to be. It's been growing every single year, and the premise is really simple. You choose one team to lose every week, and we hear the same feedback every year.
Yeah, it'll be St Kilda every week. Yep.
I could do that. That's easy. North every week. But then you tell them, well, you can only choose every team once, and then they start to think. It takes 5 or 6 seconds to click, and then they're like, oh.
But
Okay.
we still get the same thing. Oh, that'll be easy. You know, what happened? The first question we always get is, what happens if you get through all the teams? And be like, yeah, good luck. Because every year we have multiple entries out in the first 2 weeks because, you know, of course, you get one life, you get one little bit of a trial. And
It keeps getting bigger. The life's probably going to have to go by the wayside soon as well.
Well, let's get our prize money up. Last year we had 52 entrants. We had a total prize pool of $1,100 that was won by a good friend of ours, Paul. He took it out and...
Was it Paul, was it?
I don't know. I think so. I feel like
Bastards
he was in there. No, but he was, very excited with it. But it definitely adds an element of strategy because not only do you have to look ahead about who's playing who when you can use different teams, you have to also start to think, who else is everyone else tipping? You know, do you go safe early on and you pick, North Melbourne early or Hawthorn, or do you believe into the hype of round one's a little bit of a tough round because some of those teams down the bottom come out firing. We had a lot of people last year that lost Gold Coast round 1 and they thought it was going to be a down year for them, and then it was a down year, but
there's always those upsets. And coming closer to round 1, we'll speak about some betting strategies that we like to do and go from there. But loser comp, $20 entry. It's a one-off payment. You get one life. So you actually get 2 chances. You can get a team wrong twice. Once you get a team wrong twice, you're eliminated and out. You don't tip for the rest of the year, and it's the last person standing actually takes home the money. And there's a little exciting rule, I might say, at the end, and a little bit of strategy involved in that.
Very
source
controversial.
because, very controversial, and you've still kept it in in the comp.
Yep.
So
cool. you and I disagree about this every time, but
I know.
It literally is last person standing. So if you and I are round 16, and that's when we're the only two people left standing so far, and that's how far it went to last year, round 16. So we got closer again to the end. We weren't both out at round 7, but let's say we're at round 16. You and I are both left. We've only got what do we have? 2 teams left. We'd have by then.
3 teams, 16, 17, 18.
Yep, so 3 teams left, and my team's playing on Sunday and your team's playing on the Friday. If I pick the team on Sunday and you pick on Friday and your team loses on Friday, I am the last person standing in the competition.
No matter what the result is.
No matter what the result is of that game, I was the last person standing and I am the winner. And we brought that rule in. We had a little bit of controversy the first year when we did that. We've neatened that up. We've tied it. It's our fourth year we're running it, I think. Fifth year we're running it.
Oh, you're the boss.
I can't remember now. I think we ran it 1 year before the podcast, and this is our 5th year of the pod, so it'll be our 4th official year at the pod. 5th year I've run it, and as you said, it's gotten bigger every year. It's an exciting comp. Jump on our Twitter, our Facebook, jump on to our website. You're able to get the links from Pez now. I think it's Behind the Bound.
At Behind the Bound on Twitter there. I'm just opening up the page, probably from the first time since last year. It looks like you've been on there 3 days ago to have a little bit of a thing with some.
Our media manager's been on there, Pez.
And the last post before that was in September, last Saturday in September, which was the grand final.
Promoting our winning bet slip, which we'll get into in a moment. Our 4th year in a row of winning positive in the green.
Unbelievable.
Jump on there, register your interest. We add you to a Facebook Messenger group where there's heaps of banter in there. A great bunch of people are in there. And every year it gets bigger and better, and we hope that you can get on board. So jump onto our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter, all our social media streams. In the podcast link, there'll also be, we'll put a link to our loser comp. Get all your mates involved, $20 one-off payment, and it's a great, insightful way that to watch the footy, basically.
Yeah, that's all you can say, isn't it? So get around it, enjoy it, and the best thing about it is all my mates that join, it's on that Thursday night or it's on that Friday night before the first bounce when everything's going to get released. Who you going this week? What are you thinking? What's happening? You get the phone call on the way home from work and you're like, just having a little discussion about it, but you don't want to give anything away because you're against them. And then it all comes out after that first bounce on the Thursday or the Friday, and you can see everyone's tips for the weekend. And then you just go, all right, I'm going for this team to win this week because it'll knock all of these people out. It's good fun.
The 2 best messages you get is actually not the Thursday one. It's the one on the Monday morning when you're like, already got my loser for the next 3 weeks. I've won it from here. It's like, I already got this. And then next week you're like, yeah, well, your loser's out. You've lost one life. That's fine. I've got the next week planned out, the next month. And, I'm going to win it from here. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, yeah, it was a nice comp. You're out.
You got the people with spreadsheets and plan it out week after week. And a couple of those people have won it in the past. And you got the people who just look at it week by week and just go bang, and they've won it in the past. So it's pretty much all in, $20. Anyone can win it. And $1,100, nice little money in your back pocket heading into finals for AFL.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's what you can do. Follow the link. Make sure you jump on, and we can't wait to battle it out in 2023.
Soft review. It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
You know what they say, we don't know how it starts and we don't know how it ends in that little intro, but we do. It always ends with profit, and we are going to start things off with the season with a bet review, not of last year, well, a little bit of last year, but a little bit of review of the last 5 years that we've had here, all profit, to show new listeners what we're all about and to also explain, in the new direction that we're going.
Yeah, so here at Behind the Boundary podcast, we are going to be all about betting, and we're all about value source, and take into account the last 5 seasons, all been winning seasons. Every single year we've got through to the end, and you've got a nice little kit, to leading up to Christmas to celebrate your cash there. And that's if you followed every single one of both of our bets, you would have been in profit over 5 years source. Now, I don't have the numbers for over 5 years, but people don't care about that because they want the most recent data source. In 2022, it was a big year.
Huge.
So I ended up with 77 units of profit over the whole year, including finals. So that's what, 27 weeks.
So if you look at, just put $10 as your unit, just so people who don't know units, who are new to the show and just trying to understand the betting game, what are units? How much money would you have made if it was $10 a bet?
Yep. So if it was $10 a bet, you're going to make 10 times the units. So 77 multiplied by 10, you'd make around $770 for the season. And that's following every single bet with a premise of $10. Some of our bets are 1 unit. Some of our bets are 2 units. Sometimes you have 0.5 units. And in the past, we've had cheekies and things like that as well, Sauce. But if it doesn't matter if you're a big punter, if you're a small punter, if you put $1 on each bet, $77, a little bit of fun, you go from there. If you're someone who doesn't like to bet, but you just enjoy watching the football and you've got something to follow, choose a side, Pez or Sauce, and you just go with it. It's a little bit more fun and makes it more enjoyable as well.
Realistically, we're just another AFL team that's going in there when you're looking at betting. So you can either pick Pez or you can tip Sauce to get you through. And sometimes people, I've got a couple of mates and a couple of outsiders who listen to the show and they go, I don't actually like betting at all, but we like your insight. We like the way that you evaluate it, and it helps me with my footy tipping, or it helps me pick a team and have some banter around with other mates. So
it's unbelievable that you say that, because I've got a couple of mates and they just don't bet at all, and they've never been into it, but they love the show and they just love hearing about the teams and they love hearing about our bets, and they can't wait, and they're like, oh, I've got to try and listen to this before round 1 to see if there's any bets, and they just watch that with that in mind, and it's good to know.
Exactly right. And as you said, 77 units for yourself, 43.75 units for me. So on the same premise of $10 a bet, there's $430 that you're looking at. And, year to date, we have been pretty successful last year. All year we've ended up in profit. We don't have the exact stats for it, but every year is profitable. And if you're looking at through some of the other Twitter accounts, you're looking at other podcasts, one thing that we pride ourselves here is accountability. We make sure that we continue to tweet and we continue to try to get back up in the positive when they're in negative, which doesn't happen very often. But when we are, we make sure that we don't hide away. We don't delete tweets. We don't ever shy away. We don't make excuses. We may talk about why our bet lost, but we never say, oh, another kick here. We don't blame players. We don't tweet out at players. We respect the game of gambling, and
Hey, things can happen. And if you, say, lost one of your bets, Sauce, and it was a free kick, 1 second to go, and it was a controversial free kick, and you lose, you still wear it on the head, because we're about the long-term game here, and little things can happen in sports. And that's why gambling industries are so profitable, because little things in a game happen here and there, and people lose bets that they think are locks. And it happens. We lose bets all the time. Sometimes we
not all the time. Not all the time. Don't make it sound bad. We do lose some bets that we
I'll
put in.
rephrase it. We don't win every single bet that we make, and it's impossible to do.
Of course. I mean, the gambling is designed so the house and casino and the betting companies always win.
Except behind the boundary, don't let that happen.
No, we try and look for value. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to use our knowledge of not only the sport of AFL, looking at betting trends that we've analysed over the last 6 years, and probably longer if we look at how much we've both been into gambling as well as sport. And we look for trends amongst other things as well, looking at players' ins, we look at data analysis, and you'll hear the way that we strategize and the way that we place our bets in this show and all the future shows.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, tune in at Behind the Bound on Twitter. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
all good podcast providers.
All the good podcast providers there, Sauce. And it's just really enjoyable to do. We'll have one show out a week before the first game of the round, and talk about a few different things. You want to speak about our little direction?
Well, we are looking at a whole new direction. So previously, when we first started the podcast, we were called the Cheeky Punt Podcast, and we used to try and incorporate a little bit of fun, aspect to betting. And we used to put in a cheeky, those ridiculous, plus $5, $10 marks, and we basically would donate $10 to the betting.
Sometimes we try and make a bet,
so
just to put a joke out there and have a little bit of fun. But you've got to realise, if some people are following that bet and thinking that it's a good bet, it's probably not the thing that we want to put our name to, because
exactly right.
It was a little bit of fun for us and a little bit of a cheeky. We actually did count all of our cheekies in our overall unit profit. So if we didn't do that, Sauce, we would have had
Probably an extra 2200 I was 2200 I was about to say, about extra probably, $200 or $150 because
you don't want to
every week we were spending $10, and as you said, we were doing it for a bit of a joke. We were trying to throw some value, and we were trying to stay to our roots of when we first started. But now that we've become a lot more successful in terms of our betting and our listenership, and people actually message us through Twitter about like, hey, what do you think of this? I went with this advice and I went that. We need to be accountable for those actions too. So we've decided to remove the cheeky in terms of its isolation and in terms of actually having a cheeky per round.
And before people turn off the podcast and delete it, there's going to still be a cheeky segment. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, so we're going to remove it from something that we have to do each week where we have to put our own money to it. We're going to put together a cheeky segment where we look through a range of different things, which we'll get into in a moment. But what we're going to be really focusing on this year is finding value, building profit, and giving you a little bit of an edge against some of the bookies out there. So looking for specials across multiple bookies, looking for value where there's value to be had, and also giving you some advice about what we can lock in, what we're going to lean towards. So something that we're saying, hey, I probably need a little bit more information about this. I'm leaning this way, and what we're going to leave. So what we're not going to touch and not put some money for because of a multiple tude of reasons.
And probably the best advice that I could ever give to any punter is bet less means you're more profitable in the long run. Because if you say what we did early days, you bet on every single game, you're just putting out a bet there for the sake of betting on that game of footy. But it's probably more profitable in the long run if you go, you know what, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that game, not put any money towards it because I'm not too sure about it. Or I might lean this and then I'll get some more info on this team and see how they play at different grounds or whatever it might be. So only go for the absolute locks that we think, hey, this is where we can really make some money and hopefully get up there in those units each round.
Yeah, and we've all been there. We've all, one thing that we don't do is we don't chase our winnings. So we chase our losses, sorry. We don't need to chase when we're winning. But we don't chase our losses. We don't put bets down. We need to just to make profit. We look for the value, and that's what we're really going to stick to. We're going to stick at what has made us successful in betting, and we're going to try and give you, as we said, a little bit of an edge. We're going to really unpack our thoughts and processes and hopefully make you just as profitable as Behind the Boundary podcast.
And there might be some people listening here and going, you know what, Sauce absolutely has no idea about footy, so I'm going to listen to the podcast and listen to him, and I'm going to go against him.
Yeah, that's one thing that we're not getting rid of is the banter, and you can still continue to be an arsehole, so that's fine. But Pez, 5 years running, 5 years straight. Both of us have been in the green. Some years it was nice actually last year that you beat me for the first time.
Oh, you just know I'm not going to be stuffed going back that far and have a look at those things.
I've done the data. I'm a big data man, Pez, as you know, and I have done the analytics.
I think I remember 1 year out of 5 maybe you beat me.
Yeah, that's only because I actually hit a cheeky. So this is the 1 year that we hit it. So, but we are going to be starting in a new direction. As we sort of alluded to, we're still going to go through each game. We're still going to talk about the main odds, the overs, the unders, the line, maybe the big win, little win, depending on what has been released. Discuss our thoughts, where there can be value had in terms of player markets, same game multis, what bets we like, talking about the venue, the history, the stats. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do one of three things, Pez. We're either going to lock in a bet, we're either going to lean towards something, so we like a little bit of value, or we're going to leave it. So our old steer clear is now the LLL.
the triple L.
The triple L.
The triple L there. And if you are a listener, you're a loyal listener. Oh, another L.
Oh, another L.
What you can do is you can DM on the Twitter at Behind the Bound, and before the round goes, we're going to be releasing the podcast probably a day before the first game. Just throw in any questions that you've got or any cheeky stats and anything out there that you want us to talk about in the game or you want questions answered, or if you like a bet and you want us to speak about that and get our thoughts on it, anything, and we're open to reading anything and putting it through to the show.
Exactly right. We try and shout out all our loyal fans, and we make sure that we retweet. We make sure that we take your advice as well. We value, and if there's something in the markets that we've missed, let us know, and we can make sure that we help all our. I was about to say cheeky punt, then all of our Behind the Boundary loyal listeners. Now, speaking of cheeky, there's another thing that you alluded to before, Pez, the cheeky segment. What's the cheeky segment going to entail?
Yeah, well, the cheeky segment, there's been one thing, Sauce, that has been absolutely viral on gambling Twitter. Now, Behind the Boundary podcast has been very quiet, as we said, since September, because we are strictly AFL and we, like to have a little break, put our legs up, have a little bit of holiday.
Spend our hard-earned winnings.
Use the winnings. But what we're going to do is we're going to do one thing that I'm really excited for. It's another L to add to the podcast. Hopefully we don't add too many L's on the bet slip. But anyway, the ladder challenge.
And just like a ladder, I'm sure. Look, I'm just going to break it down for someone who's pretty thick when it comes to this stuff. Pez, you're just climbing the ladder. Is that all it is?
Yeah, pretty much trying to climb the ladder. It is for a little bit of fun, and it's not something to take and go, oh, I'm going to guarantee a profit here, because it is strictly for fun. You put a little bit of coin down and you can have fun over a number of rounds. And the magic number Sauce, you know what the magic number is?
7.
It doesn't matter. You can choose to come out anytime.
Okay.
We're not going to put a number on it, because
well, we are putting a number. We're putting if you follow the ladder up its 10 steps, we are aiming to, and we're going to try to challenge ourselves to make $10,000. So there is a number.
Oh, you want to put the number? If I get to 5,000, if I get to 5K though,
No.
you can't
Just jump off 5 steps up and you're going to jump off the ladder.
Yeah,
You're going to break both ankles and not be able to climb anymore.
That's going to be a little bit longer. So the premise is you start with $10. So Sauce, you and I are going to do it together, which is
Well, you're going to help me count.
is going to cause probably a little bit of shit stirring.
A little bit of shit stirring. A lot of heated debate, I'm sure, because we don't agree very often.
This might be the thing that takes us the most time each week, but we're going to put a bet out each round, and it is going to be a step up the ladder. So we're going to put $10 to it.
Start with 10.
Start with 10, and the aim is to try and double your money in a little multi, usually going for safer odds. So if I could think about it in terms of AFL, you think about the 15 plus disposal markets, if they have them this year, please. The 20 plus disposal markets, you've got alternate lines, alternate overs or alternate unders. So we've used that a lot in season 2022 for just normal games, and now we've got a chance to use it over a whole round. Try and get to the magic number of around $2 odds, put your $10 to it, try and double your money, and then you invest all of those winnings the next week's Sauce. So then you try and double it again. So it's double, 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 double. If you lose on one of the ladder rungs, say on the 5th rung, you lose that amount of money, but it's kind of like you've just invested that $10. So that's why it's a little bit of fun. It is a little bit cheeky, and we're going to try and go from $10 all the way up to 10,000.
Yeah, challenge accepted. Challenge is very simple.
You're going to say challenge completed.
Challenge completed. I mean, it's 10 grand sitting here. If we just total up our profits from the last couple of years, definitely. But Behind the Boundary podcast, looking at the ladder challenge, climbing the ladder challenge, doesn't really matter because it's going to be simple. Start with $10. We're looking to double that each round of footy, put our heads together, try and come up with something that gives us $2 odds, invest those winnings and try to get to $10,000. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. I'm sure there's going to be lots of arguments back and forth and lots of banter from our Twitter listeners. But if you're interested in something like that, jump on our Twitter, which is Pez.
At Behind the Bound, we'll be, posting the ladder challenge for a little bit of content there every week, as well as our bets every week will be up there. Everything that you need will be around there, and we're looking forward to the DMs of the bet slips of people's ladder challenge as well. And some people might not agree with some of our choices in the end and steer a little bit different, and then hopefully we all can just still climb that ladder together.
Hopefully the people are a lot nicer than last time we released a ladder and we got some absolute hate on Twitter and Facebook about our ladder predictions. So hopefully people are a little bit nicer. But also in our cheeky segment, Pez, we're going to be looking at releasing each week, not where we're actually going to put our money. Well, we may lock in that value each week, but we're going to look at putting a same game multi out or looking at putting an actual multi out as well as a cheeky value bet as well. Traditionally that's been $5, but again, we're going to put out something there because we know loyal listeners like to, the 3 L's, mate. I'm all over the L's tonight. They like to listen to the podcast and they like to follow along with that stuff because sometimes people just want to win big quickly and early, and we know that's not a great strategy for us, but it's not our money. If you want to invest in that, then go for it.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things we get in the DM each round is people putting together
big
cheekies
ones,
and just sending them through, and then we like to follow along with them as well. And all we hope for is that every bet someone puts on, as long as it doesn't interfere with my bet, it wins.
Exactly right.
We don't want the bookies to win in the end.
No.
We want Behind the Boundary podcast to win and our listeners to win as
we
well.
We are united against the gambling companies. All of us have been screwed over by gambling or casinos or losing money to the man, and we are fighting against them. So join the Behind the Boundary army and fight against the gambling companies. get aboard, mate.
So that's what you worked on all pre-season, was it?
It has been a busy pre-season, and I like that. I like the artistry in the comments there.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this ladder challenge, and if we can cash out at that $10,000 and there you go, split that $5K, be very happy to take that.
It would be very, very nice to split that with you, Pez.
So round 10, round 11, around there.
Round 11, we're cashed out. And we can start our second challenge.
Yeah, imagine we get to round 22 and we've got two 10K challenges complete.
Yeah, just 20K each, 10K, 20K each? No, 20K between us. That was a really good sentence, wasn't it?
20K total. That'd increase the profits over the last 5 years if you were to include it.
Just a tad, won't it?
No, it's a beautiful thing.